Welcome back to the 7th Grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about black towns. There is a section in history that is covered in dust and hidden under mounds and mounds of misinformation. And some of it was shoveled under those mounds to be hidden on purpose to control the way you consider black people and their role in the formation of this country and their agency. And so I want to start with Fort Mose in Florida. Fort Mose, or Mose, was located just north of St. Augustine, and it was considered the first free black settlement. Now, this was founded in 1738. Now, let's stop for a second and really think about that, because this is way before the Civil War. This is probably about 100 years into slavery in the U.S., maybe 125 more into slavery. But this is before Crispus Attucks dies in the Revolutionary War, right? So these people that are in this town, they're there, or they sell this town because there was a fight for control over North America from the UK, Great Britain, Spain, and the French. But all of them relied on enslaved African labor. And the King of Spain issued an edict. Any male slave of the British colonies who escaped to the Spanish colony of Florida would be set free, as long as he declared his allegiance to Spain and the Catholic Church. Now, think about what that is. That's psychological warfare. He is really doing that to break down the British. Now, the Spaniards are used to Africans because the Moors came there and civilized them. They set up the bathhouses and gave them mathematics and surgery.
The Moors ran the whole Iberian Peninsula.
That's right. So they're used to dealing with Africans. But then they see that the Brits have African slaves. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to break these Brits down from the inside by taking away their workforce. And I offer them freedom by letting them escape and go to Florida where they won't be enslaved. So part of this is a military tactic, and maybe a small amount of it is genuine. I don't know. But this settlement lasted for some time until it was abandoned before the British took possession of Florida in 1763, right? So that's 35 years after it was settled. So that's a good amount of time for this town to amass a blacksmith and a church and a general store and, farmland around that area. So there was a thriving black population in Florida before the Declaration of Independence was even signed. You hear me what I'm saying? There were black people had their own town in Florida before the Old West was even a thing. Think about that for a second. So that means that, okay, these blacks were also coming into contact with
Native population,
the Native Americans. You see where I'm going with this. So hold up. That means that when they fled because the British were coming, where'd they go? Where'd these black people go? Now, check this out. So some of them probably went north into Georgia, and they were kicking it with the Cherokee or the Blackfoot. And then some of them stayed in Florida. And they were cool with the Seminole, and they were marrying and intermixing with those Indians down there. So that by the time Georgia is founded with the lowlifes from the streets of England, there's black people already there.
Look, all you got to do is, if you want proof of this, look at the Geechee Gala. The Gala Geechee culture, I always said it backwards. They're the ones in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. Them black folks been there for years. Now, of course, some of them are slaves. And some of them are probably mixes, or some of them were already here. But when you do that research, is it Hilton Head, South Carolina, where they got all these hotels? That was Geechee Gala land. You do realize that land came from us. We were already there. And I don't want to get the story wrong, so I don't want to miss it. But what we're breaking down to you, black folks had towns here in the 17 and 1800s. Now, how did we get there? Were we already here? Or did we come from slavery? But the bottom line is we had our own culture. We had our own towns. And you'd be surprised which town started out as black, is what we're trying to show you guys. The one that has been talked about, we're in the Midwest, is Buxton in Iowa. The town of Buxton in southeast Iowa.
It was called a black man's town.
Yes. Founded in 1873, had to do with this railroad, coal, whatever mining, primarily African-American town. They had a couple of them in Nebraska, too. I remember growing up in Omaha, we had the Black African-American Museum, which was for Nebraska. A lot of these towns were black. A lot of these settlers were black. So this is what we're trying to teach everybody is that, look, some towns that are black to this day, we had we created. Of course.
Hold on a second. Hold on. We're gonna stay in just Iowa for a second because there was a town called Muchakinnock, Iowa, and blacks held many key roles in the town, including 2 justices of the peace and 2 deputy sheriffs, with a black population that reached about 5,000 and was dubbed by Booker T. Washington as a success. But soon the demand for coal, the town's principal industry, began to lessen, and by 1927, Buxton had lost all of its residents. 5,000 black people were in this town in Iowa after the Civil War. It's crazy. 5,000. That's a lot, dude. That's a lot of black people in Iowa. So,
Look,
but hold on. There was another place not right next door, right there west of Iowa in Nebraska. And Nebraska had an all-black town. Did you look up that one? So there was a colony in Nebraska of black people, and it was called DeWitt. Yeah, so from there, they had left there, and they went to western New Mexico. Okay, dude, this is crazy, like how many black towns there were. Because when you start really digging
we're not
into
taught this. Yeah, we're not taught
we're
this.
not taught this at all. But when you really start to dig into this, it's amazing. It's
Jean Baptiste Pont de Sablé. He is the man. He is a trader, Haitian man, died August 1818, black pioneer trader and founder of the settlement that would be later become Chicago, the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago was discovered by a black man. He's Haitian. I guess they got statues all over the place. But again,
I bet he was a fur trapper.
It says, I want to pioneer trader. And so usually when they say trader, they usually fur trader, But when you're dealing, he was born 1750.
Oh yeah, okay. So 1750. So okay, so go forward 20 years. So when he's in his 20s and 30s, it's 1780, and that's still like French territory where they're doing a lot of fur trading. Okay.
Again, like I said, this is not what we're taught. We're taught that you came over in slavery. Well, this cat ain't no slave. He was born 1750. There were black folks already over here establishing towns and settlements. We migrated west just like the white folks did, and many of us were here during the Louisiana, prior to the Louisiana Purchase. Excuse me. Even when you talk about the guy that helped Lewis and Clark, York, was he a slave or was he the navigator? Because when you're a little kid, they tell you York is a slave, but when you start doing your research, why would the slave be telling you where to go? Unless he'd been there. Another conversation. Look, there's a Black Sam. Ain't Black? I got to look it up. I don't want to give you the wrong. Black Sam is the one who discovered Buffalo, New York. There's a lot of black towns in the world that are not black now. Okay. And you judge these places on who's in charge now.
Right. So New Philadelphia, Illinois, and Pin Oak Colony, Illinois, founded in 1836. New Philadelphia was among the first towns registered as African American before the Civil War. So back that on up. So, okay, while black people were still enslaved in the South, and there were black people, freed Africans in the North, these Africans went to the Midwest, where they've already this guy in Illinois, this African Haitian guy, had established this colony there, and so they heard about that, and they started a nearby town in New Philadelphia. But okay, all this is going on, and you have to understand the psychology of these people around at this time. So they are coming into contact with the Plains Indians, the Native Americans in these areas, the Sioux, and those other tribes around there. And so this area in the Midwest is being settled by not only white people, but African explorers. And so they can live in this area free from persecution from whites. Now, the West is the West, you know what I mean? So you got to carry your weapon and protect yourself, but still there's that sense of freedom. There's not established colonies that want to put you in shackles. So, founded in 1836, New Philadelphia was among the first towns to be considered African American before the Civil War. Frank McWhorter, a former Kentucky slave, pulled together money from his work and his own enterprises to purchase freedom for himself and his family and buy 42 acres in southwest Illinois. Before the Civil War, this town was a safe haven for the Underground Railroad. But Hannibal and Naples Railroad bypassed the town, and by the late 1880s, residents started leaving. Today, New Philadelphia is an open field. It was named a national landmark in 2009. Now, Pin Oak Colony started even earlier. It was established in 1818, and this small township spread across just 480 acres. It was organized under the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, an act that led to Western expansion and excluded slavery. And after the Civil War, many residents located to other towns. So you have the area that is now Chicago. You have, in that same state, in the southwest part of that state, a little further away, you have these other towns of New Philadelphia, and then you also have Pin Oak Colony. So what you're seeing now are states that have large black populations: Iowa, Nebraska, and Illinois. And all that is like this one area. So there's trading going on. And so these black people that are living in these towns, having babies, raising children, having communities, there's all types of talk about other black folk in these other areas. So just imagine what the world is like, what your conversations are like at that time, what that headspace is like. We're free. We can be here. We just got to protect ourselves. You know, we can earn a living and own land. That's powerful. These are people with agency. But see, you're continuously fed this one image of these black people that are so helpless and have to be like saved by white people all the time. It's the same ridiculous trope that we get over and over and over. But you don't never hear about black cowboys until like a white person writes about it. You know, it's a trip. There's a movie that came out recently. It's on Netflix. It's called The Harder They Fall. It's really good. It is a damn good movie. Have you watched it yet?
Yeah, I watched it.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. There's the story is fictional, but the characters are real.
Yes.
And so it's based on like what could have happened, what might have happened. But I'm fine with fiction. I'm fine with it. It doesn't have to be historically accurate. It's just interesting and entertaining. But I know those people are real. That's the cool part. Bass Reeves was a real dude. And then Delroy Lindo comes in to the saloon, this black-owned saloon, this black town. And everybody in the saloon has a gun. And he pulls and draws his gun on this guy that he has to take back because, you know, he's a ranger. So he's a marshal. He's going to take this dude, a ranger. And he's like, don't try it. You know who I am. You know what I do. I thought that was really cool.
Look, when the whole idea that we all came from slavery and just nothing else happened. Mm-hmm. It's like you got slavery and you fast forward to the civil rights movement. Didn't shit happen between then, right?
Yeah, nothing to see here. Move along.
Yeah. We shall overcome. That's it. And that's what we're trying to show you is they're not. Second, the idea that black folks weren't already here. They talk about Pio Pico. He was the last governor of Alta California. Alta California is when, you know, before California became what we know it now as California, broke off from Mexico, whatever. Now, Pio Pico, they're telling you he's Mexican. When you look at them pictures, he's super dark. They had black folks in Mexico already.
Negrito.
Now, the whole thing is like, you know, there's a show that used to come on, Latin, old boy, the kind of funny dude, the one that got in trouble with Barack, whatever. I can't think of his name, but, you know, it was a black and Latin in Latin America, whatever. And you're finding all these black folks in Mexico. Now, of course, they're going to tell you the slave thing, but many of the black folks were already here because of, you know, we had those African settlements that came on the east coast of Mexico in the Gulf. So, San Leventa.
This is after the Olmecs showed up and did some cool shit and made
some that's during the Olmecs. San Leventa and all those three settlements are the Olmecs, and again, that is pre-slavery. That's the 1400s, 1600s. That's before the slaves even got here.
No, but see, the Olmecs made those heads way before that, though.
Yeah, yes. When you get in the west coast of Africa, that current brings you right to there. That's why you have those three African settlements. Those are the Olmecs. That's how that went down. But the point we're making is there's black folks in Mexico prior to slavery, and they use slavery to explain everything. Slavery is a catch-all. Do you understand? Slavery is the thing that robs you of. When you say robs you of your history, you think it's talking about, just Africans this, Africans that. There were already people here. Dark-skinned people are in South America and North America a long time ago, going back 50,000 years. Look it up. But what we're trying to get you, these black towns exist. One of the biggest proofs they got is that there's these tribesmen in South America, and they do the ceremony every year where they plant bananas at the grave of these people, and they can't figure out why. Well, we know bananas are not native to South America. So they literally saved these bananas just to commemorate the death of these like 5-6 guys. They were black folks that brought. They came there and basically civilized these tribesmen in the middle of South America. And to commemorate the great deal they did, they plant bananas. And yeah, but bananas are not native. Is how did they get these seeds? It shows that these black towns existed prior to slavery. And these black towns that we got now that we're talking about are things that have been taken over by other people. But the bottom line is we were already here. We were doing the whole American dream. We were taking part of that.
Okay, so that's interesting you say that, because there's a place in Texas that they consider Houston's Little Harlem, and it's Freedmanstown, Texas. At the end of the Civil War, thousands of freed slaves purchased land and built their homes along the Buffalo Bayou, calling it Freedmanstown. Over 6 decades, the town thrived with churches, schools, stores, theaters, jazz spots lining the cobblestone roadways. By the 1920s, it was known as Little Harlem, but the Great Depression caused many to lose their homes. Some longtime residents moved to other Houston neighborhoods, and others stayed and watched the community deteriorate. By 1984, Freedman's was designated a historic district. So that's Texas. So this is right before the whole Juneteenth thing happened.
Yep.
See? So there were parts of Texas that had enslaved Africans still. But there was, in Houston, you had Freedmanstown. So it goes to show there's like these isolated pockets where you have a plantation, and people are on this plantation and don't even know that there's free black folks 2 hours away. Crazy, man. So let's continue west. Allensworth, California. Hold on. Before we go to California, I want to say that I came across a book in 2012, and this book is called Blacks in the Gold Rush. And
oh wow.
Yeah, yes. I saw this I was in LA, and I was like, whoa, holy shit.
That's what I'm talking. See, that's only funny.
Dude,
because
it was in a library. I went to a library in LA, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Look, no, but it's funny because off the air, me and Roscoe talk about this gold mine stuff all the time. Like, look, man, let's just find us a plot. All we need is a little bit of gold, and we can strike it rich. But like I said, we have a history of this. The whole idea is the 49ers and all these people ran to California during the gold rush and ran up to the Klondike, but we were participating. we're not just footnotes in history.
All right, so Allensworth, California. In 1908, Lieutenant Colonel Allensworth and 4 others set up the California Colony and Home Promoting Association with the mindset of establishing the state's first all-black township, located on the Santa Fe rail line. By 1914, the town housed the first black school district, a judicial system, and a hotel. The town struggled to stay afloat in the face of setbacks, and from water supply issues to the railroad closing its stop there. The township is now preserved as Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park. Wow. You see, but only problem in that situation, like I'm thinking like, man, like maybe they could have got together and drilled some wells. You know what I'm saying? To deal with like the water supply issue. I'm just like, it's sad that happened. What I keep hearing over and over is that these black towns are victims to outside forces. Because
the other thing that we always hear is that the black prosperity is what influence these people to get involved. Like if you're black and too prosperous, hence Tulsa, hence a lot of the race riots in the South. If you're too successful, when I say they, white folks, Klan, whatever, will get involved. You hear about W.E. Du Bois, and I can't think of the black lady that like the shotguns. When you keep reading about these people, and like, there's a successful grocery store owner in Memphis. He was killed and lynched. And so the jealousy and the idea that black folks the idea that black folks aren't successful is not the same as black folks being sabotaged. And too many times these black towns were basically sabotaged. Their business went someplace else. They were overgrown by another city, or that port, had more significance than somebody else. So, like I said, there's many reasons that these black towns, disappeared from the map. But a lot of them, it's not by accident. It's by purpose. It's by design. That's what we're trying to point out. Like I said, I talked about Pio Pico, it says right here, Pio Pico in 1801 marked the date. He was an Afro-Mexican businessman and politician. So we were establishing towns in the West also. That's what my brother Roscoe was telling me. It wasn't just the East Coast and Southeast where they had slavery. It was in the Midwest. It's in the West. It's in the North. we were fixtures. We're part of this American culture. And like I said, stop using slavery.
Before there was even a constitution, there was a black town.
So it's really important to recognize that slavery is not the catch-all they pretend it to be. Slavery is a thing. Oh, well, there's black folks there that must have been slaves. No. Here's the like there was a thing in the news, we had talked about it in one of the other podcasts, where this teacher is in trouble for saying that if it wasn't for the Constitution, you guys would be slaves. So that gives the impression again that we had no history before slavery. No, we were free before slavery. We taught you. This is, you wouldn't have your culture without us. So when you try to explain to people, like, stop acting like slavery is where we began, or that you gave us religion when we know that Christianity in this current form is an Ethiopian religion. So we had people over here. We were doing stuff. We had lives. Slavery was just the thing that you guys used to build your country on my back. And whether you came in slave ships or whether they enslaved the people that were already here, because they leave that part out. Me and my brother talked about our fourth grade teacher. I'm like, that woman had knowledge of slavery that I don't have. Like she was like, yeah, they used the Native Americans first, and they died off. They couldn't take the heat, and so they started bringing Africans over here. So, which is a lie. That's not how it happened. When you look at Haiti, which was probably black prior to that. When you look at Haiti and Jamaica, and you do when they test the DNA, they don't have any American Indians. They all are dark. They break down the fact that the sugarcane, the mining of that, is so brutal. They had 100,000 people there, and they started killing off the natives. So they had to go to Africa to get some more people. Yeah, but that's not what we're taught. We're saying that we were establishing black towns, and we had greatness, and we had cities, and we had whole cultures already here. When white folks were just coming over here, we were already here. How many times going back to Christopher Columbus, when he gets lost and he asks the Moors for direction? Again, that is, if you go to Berkeley, California, the University of Berkeley, and you go to the library, they got Christopher Columbus's logs. He says the Moors gave him directions. So the Moors were already over here. You already have black presence. You already have black people setting up towns and living and doing things. We need to recognize this because it's important. When you go to these big cities and you think that you're just a visitor, when you think that you're just, you're just coming here and you're doing this for entertainment purposes. When the truth is, your people were already here. You got a reason to be here. Again, they talk about that black beach in California that was just given back to the original owners, worth $130 million, $119 million, because it was taken from them illegally. We were already here.
So there was a black town in New Mexico called Blackdom, Blackdom.
Well, that's a good name for it.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that name?
It's now the only black ghost town that still exists in America. And it's located southwest of Roswell, where the famous UFO crash was. Blackdom was established by Frank and Ella Louise Boyer, who were the first all-black settlers in New Mexico. The heyday for the town was around 1908, and there were around 300 residents. They had set up a post office, a blacksmith, stores, a hotel, and the Blackdom Baptist Church, which also served as a schoolhouse. By the 1920s, a severe drought led settlers to abandon the town. So, going back to Texas for a second, there were two other towns that came up, and they were started in the late 1860s with the founding of Shankleville, Shankleville.
Oh, wow. Hey, excuse me, Roscoe. As soon as I typed in Blackdom, do you know it brought up other black towns? They got Empire, Wyoming. They got DeWitt, Nebraska, which you named.
Okay, hold your fire. So Shankleville was founded in 1867, and Kendleton, Kendleton, was founded in 1870. Go ahead. What were you saying about the Black Ghost Town?
No, when you type in Blackdom, it brings up other black towns, and one of them is called Empire, Wyoming. It was
tell
a
me
black
about that one.
in eastern Wyoming near Nebraska state border between 1908 and 1920. It was founded in 1908 by African American families from Custer County, Nebraska. So Nebraska people went to Wyoming because Nebraska.
Custer County, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Where is Custer County, Nebraska? Where's that at?
Hey, hold on.
Why are you looking that up?
Yeah.
There were also all black towns in Kentucky, and in July of 1877, there were black towns that were forming in the Kentucky area as well. And
wow, you ain't gonna believe this one. You asked where Custer County, Nebraska is. It's not up north. It's in the middle of Nebraska, smack dab in the middle.
Is it close to Scottsbluff?
No. Okay, when I say middle, Scottsbluff is like probably a little bit further
to the west.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's craziness. This smack dab in the middle. When you look it up, I thought it was gonna be north of the border. No, you just asked. I'm going to send you a picture. Custer County, Nebraska. And the families moved. So I wonder how much racism they was experiencing in the middle of Nebraska to what I
Well, I mean, because they would deal with the Sioux Indians, right? And the Ogallala Sioux, they would deal with them, and then they would also deal with, let's see, when was Custer County? So yeah, that means if they went to started Empire, Wyoming on the Nebraska border in 1908. They had to be in Custer County at least 20 years for that. Before that. So that means so that means they were dealing with the western days. So that was the end of the Old West. So they were still Indians, and that was after Custer's last stand. So there's still some Sioux running around there. There was still some buffalo, but almost all the buffalo were gone. Because I'm painting a picture of that Nebraska at that point in time. And then you had the what you call it, the whites that did the land grab, and so you had all this stuff that was going on.
Going west, yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Another one is Mississippi, of course. Whatever. Here's the story. Here's what became of historic all black town called Mound Bayou in Mississippi.
Mound Bayou?
Yeah, Mound Bayou. Dude, this is like I said, the whole idea that we didn't participate, or the whole idea that slavery was it. Like, no, we had towns prior to slavery.
But check this out. Check this out, though. During a 55-year period following the end of the Civil War, African Americans built more than 50 identifiable communities in Oklahoma.
Yes.
Just Oklahoma. So, people talk about Tulsa, right? And then I wonder, so Langston must be named after Langston Hughes.
No, John Mercer Langston. John Mercer Langston was a black politician. Yes,
Because you went to college there.
yeah, governor. Well, he was a court judge. He was every. When you look up John Mercer Langston, he's from the D.C. area,
Hmm.
and this brother did everything. He was like a senator, a congressman, black. So
Okay, so
again,
Langston was black.
yeah. John Mercer Langston was black.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing is that, again, we're all told that, okay, you got a couple aberrations here. No, we had black excellence going back years. Yeah. So, man, so celebrating the Mound Bayou, Mississippi's oldest black town. Then it says the magical kingdom of Mound Bayou. Look, these places were thriving. These places had a great history, and it was stolen. A lot of this is hidden.
But check this out, though. When the U.S. government set up land to individual Native Americans, most Indian, what they call freedmen, chose to land next to African Americans. Their farming communities sheltered self-governed economic and social institutions, including businesses, schools, and churches. Enterprising businesses set up every imaginable kind of business, including publishing concerns whose newspapers advertised in the South for settlers. So they were basically, sending newspapers to the South in hopes that like black people who had just got out of slavery could, come up here and be like, hey, come on up here, fuck that place. You know what I'm saying? Like it's cool up here. It's nice. I mean, it's not as hot.
You ain't got to deal with this shit if you don't want
Mm-hmm.
to. There are there are places for you. Look, even when Condoleezza Rice in her book where it talks about her grandfather lived in a black town, and when the Klan came, that grandfather was a preacher. All the preachers, all the black men got together and had their guns and their trucks, and they protected both ends of the town. So you got stories like this that don't get out because the whole idea is like, okay, the Klan was this big scourge and people were afraid of the Klan. No, black folks were not afraid of the Klan. That's that movie shit. The Klan would show up. The Klan got killed in several places. The Klan didn't win every battle. That's not how it goes down. In fact, there's a brother that I think he just died, but I can't remember where he's from, and he went to jail for shooting this cop and shooting this Klan member. And so I guess the cop shows up. He said, "Well, he came by my house earlier today, threatened me. So when I saw him again, I just shot him. I wasn't gonna wait to see what he was gonna do." And so the guy goes to jail. He gets out of jail, and before he dies, he starts making the circuit. And when you hear he killed a couple people, but it was always they was coming for him. They knew he was a badass, and so the whole idea that the Klan ran the shit the way that's revisionist history. The Klan did not have the power that we are taught that it had. And this whole thing burning crosses in people's yards, shit, yeah, but we shot back. We killed plenty of these cats. I know that's not what you told, but don't get that shit twisted. We ain't victims.
So, okay, when more and more black people settled in Oklahoma with the land run of 1889, which ordered free land to non-Indians, E.P. Maccabee, former state auditor of Kansas, helped found, with Langston, the all-black town of Langston. By means of the Langston City Herald, which his traveling agents circulated around the South, he and other leaders helped to bring in a large number of African Americans whose growing political power would secure their prosperity and safety. Maccabee never accomplished his goal of creating an African American state. Nevertheless, dozens of black communities sprouted and flourished in the rich topsoil of the new territory, and after 1907, the new state. In Oklahoma and Kansas, blacks lived relatively free from prejudice and brutality common in racially mixed communities in the Midwest and the South. Cohesive all-black settlements offered residents the security of depending on neighbors for financial assistance and the economic opportunity provided by the access to open markets for their crops. Okay, this goes back to what I'm saying. These blacks were self-sufficient. They would go to these farmers markets and they would sell their crops, or they would use the oil that was on their land to sell that and use the oil from the land to make money from that. So these are people fresh out of slavery. You know, they're like, man, fuck this bullshit. I'm out of here. I'm going to go out west and flourish. And that's exactly what happened. But you know what? I really wonder how much of this is a psyop and how much of this is this us not promoting. Nobody's stopping us from putting this shit out, man. Like
it's a long, complicated conversation. Preach, brother.
Well, look, this is what I'm saying though. But it's like, because I think we get lazy. We get lazy in accepting Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Black Panthers, Angela Davis, all these people, Carter G. Woodson. This is Black history. Hold on, man. Hold on. There's more. There's more. Talk about some more. Talk about some more shit. Dude. Okay. When I was a little boy, my dad gave me this book. And in this book, it talked about Esteban. And Esteban was a African that came to North America with the Spaniards, and he traveled and explored California and New Mexico and all the western states. I learned about him there. And that was before the Old West, okay, in this book. But then this movie came out like 15 years later, 20 years later, Posse. You know what I'm saying? And it had black cowboys in it. You know what I'm saying? Now, okay, pepper that with the fact that when my Uncle Grady died, which is like this crazy supernatural event, and there were these black Indians that showed up at the funeral. And when I say black Indians, I'm not talking about chicks that look like these thoughts you see on Instagram now.
No,
stop.
Preach.
I'm not talking about light skin, pretty looking. No. The crazy part about it is they were all dark skinned, but they had these Indian features, and they all had this long, pretty black hair.
Look,
hold on. I asked my father. I was like, he said, out of everybody at the funeral, he's like, those are the only people that you focused on like a laser. And I said,
your dad's Blackfoot?
I asked my dad. I was like, who are those people? Because he said it was almost like nobody else there mattered. He was like, you were fixated on these people.
You couldn't help it.
I couldn't. My blood was talking. You know what I'm saying? My DNA was talking.
Where's your dad? Hold on. Where's your dad from?
He's from Blackfeet, from North Carolina.
So he's Blackfoot. So
yeah.
That's the whole thing. One of the people that helped raise me, my babysitter, Miss Brown, Mr. Brown, was Blackfoot. And people, whenever you see a picture of a Blackfoot, Shittacock, Pokanoket, whenever you see them, they black.
Boo, like, and I asked him, I was like, who are they? Who are those people? He's like, those are your people. And I was just stunned. I was like, really?
But you want more of an explanation. That's not enough explanation, Dad. Hold it. You asked about John Mercer Langston was an American abolitionist, attorney, educator, activist, diplomat, politician. He was the first dean of the law school at Howard University. He helped create it. It just goes on, and his accomplishments go on and on and on. And so,
to talk about the town Langston, though.
I'm sure they do. Okay, here's what people don't get. The reason these towns are named for these people because they're great people. We had our own culture. It's like when you go down south and you got Grant and you got Robert E. Lee and all that shit, and Robert E. Lee was killing people, and and so Old Hickory, Andrew Jackson. So it was the same for us. We named our towns and for the people that we admired. We named our stuff for the people that we looked up to. Hell, Memphis. Memphis is named after Memphis in Egypt. We had a culture. And one of the things that when they talk about Egyptians coming here, it's kind of strange that the city of Memphis is set up on a river that's just like the Nile. We did what was familiar with us. So when you track these black towns, some of them are much older than you think because we were already over here and we did what was familiar. Sorry. Don't let nobody tell you different.
Okay. Dude, there's so much. There's so much. Marshalltown, Norfolk Colored, Canadian town, Arkansas colored. All these towns existed as early as 1860s in the Indian Territory. That's what they call the Indian Territory. But other Indian Territory towns that no longer exist include Sanders, Mobile, Wiley, Homer, Huttonville, Lee, and Renty. Among the Oklahoma Territory towns that no longer exist are Lincoln, Cimarron Town, Bailey, Zion, Emmanuel, Eudora, and Douglas in the old Oklahoma Territory. Surviving towns include Boley, Boley, Brooksville, Clearview, Oklahoma, Grayson, Langston, Lima, Redbird, Rentisville, Summit, Taft, Tatums, Tallahassee, and Vernon Boley. The largest and most renowned of these was twice inspected by African-American educator Booker T. Washington, who also said that these were considered a success and landed the town in the Outlook magazine in 1908. Yeah. Dude, that's crazy. So, immediately after statehood in 1907, the Oklahoma legislature passed Jim Crow laws, and many African Americans became disenchanted with the new state. A large contingent relocated to Western Canada, forming colonies such as Amber Valley, Alberta, Maidstone, and Saskatchewan. Another exodus of Africans from the United States occurred with the Back to Africa movement of the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
That's Liberia.
A large group of Oklahomans joined the ill-fated Chief Sam expedition to Africa. Other Plains state African Americans migrated to colonies in Mexico.
Hold it. Back to our boy John Mercer Langston, born free in Virginia to a freed woman of mixed ethnicity, planter father. In 1888, he was elected to the U.S. Congress. He was the first representative of color from Virginia.
And black.
Very black. He was elected to U.S. representatives from Virginia. Wrote From the Virginia Plantation to the National Capitol. That's a book, From the Plantation to the Capitol. Dope. First and only Negro representative in Congress from the Old Dominion. When they say Old Dominion, they're talking about where they had slavery. That's the old area. He did this shit. This shit. Okay, here's the thing. Even when Brock got in office, people said Brock would have been killed. This nigga was doing it when they was lynching motherfuckers and didn't give a damn. He ran in Virginia, which was a slave state. He didn't care. I'm just trying to get people to understand this whole terrorist. We're afraid of the Klan shit. These black men were.
That's a psyop, dude. That's a fucking psyop,
dude. Preach. Like this Klan was an all-encompassing, and we weren't cowering, shivering. Oh, fuck that. When you read about Bass Reeves, the guy in the movie my brother just told you about, and we've talked about him on 4 different podcasts, at least my black ass, and you have too. And when you realize Bass Reeves beat up his master and left and went and became a Texas Ranger. So we see Bass Reeves, but the best part of the story is he beat up his master. Why don't you talk about that shit? Dude. And he's like, look, I'm going to Oklahoma and shit. So again, the reason I keep pushing that we was already here, the man knew a bunch of different languages. He Muskogee and all these different Indian tribes. So we're taught that slavery is it. He may have already been here. But the bottom line was his first master, which was the guy's father, is the one who taught him how to shoot and do all this crazy shit. So then he's playing, his master dies. He's like, I had a problem with him. Then the son takes over. They're playing a card game. So the son says that he's lying and cheating. And Baz's like, you ain't going to talk to me like this. I ain't cheated once. And he beats his ass and leaves. Excuse me. I'm excited. Ain't nobody scared of nobody in this motherfucker. That's the whole thing.
Y'all understand? I ain't scared of you
motherfuckers. And so the whole idea that black folks, the Klan wasn't everywhere. The Klan wasn't everybody. We had a big population. The other thing is many of these states had a larger population of black people. Many of these slave states, Mississippi, sometimes Georgia, many of these states had a larger black population than a white population. So to control that many people, you had to put that fear into them. You had to have that shit. You had Nat Turner, where they cut the man up and sent his body parts and nuts and everything everywhere. Because, and again, who's to say they got Nat Turner? You know, we fall for that shit because it makes a good story, but maybe they didn't get that nigga.
Okay. Weeksville, New York. What is now Bed-Stuy, New York, in Brooklyn. Weeksville was the second largest community for blacks prior to the Civil War. James Weeks, a freed slave, purchased a significant amount of land from Henry C. Thompson, another freed slave. Weeks sold property to new residents who eventually named the community after him. It thrived over the years, becoming home to the Southern blacks fleeing slavery and Northern blacks escaping the racial violence and draft riots in New York and other cities. The Five Points District in New York. So today we know it as Wall Street. But from 1830 to 1860s, this area was the site of Manhattan's first free black settlement, located on a five-cornered intersection of what were then Anthony, Cross, Orange, and Little Water streets. It also became known as a notorious slum with dance halls, bars, gambling, prostitution. Many blacks fled the area to escape the draft riots of 1863 because they did not want to participate in the Civil War. Seneca Village, New York, located between 82nd and 89th Street and 7th and 8th Avenues in Manhattan, first community of prominent black property owners. The New York State Census estimated that about 264 residents lived in Seneca Village between 1825 and 1857. The areas consisted of 3 churches, a school, several cemeteries, all razed and history erased with the development of Central Park.
Central Park was a black town.
So yes. Central Park was a black town. They gentrified those people and put Central Park right there. Ain't that a bitch? That motherfucker was there from 1825 to 1857. Wow. For fucking 22 years it was there. Wow, man. So what you're hearing is that black people have been holding it down on this chunk of earth for quite some time now. On their own. You see, when you look up some of these things, they're very misleading, actually. When I was looking up a lot of this information,
it's super misleading. Like you feel like you're looking up something else, and then you read the whole thing, and like, oh, wait a minute.
But see, okay, there were Canadian all-black communities in Upper Canada, the Ontario area, and they were offshoots of the abolitionist movement. In 1829, the settlement of Wilberforce was created to resettle black refugees expelled from Cincinnati. And Wilberforce was Wilberforce as well as most of the other Canadian settlements, such as Dawn and Elgin, were operated by charities. But
wasn't Wilberforce the guy that stopped slavery in England? You know, we have a history of fighting these people. That's all I'm trying to get out there. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. But this is what I'm saying is that, okay, you could exist in America in the fucking 1700s in an all-black town and be self-sufficient. You could exist before the Civil War in the 1800s in America in an all-black town and be self-sufficient. After the Civil War, you're black in an all-black town, holding it down, being self-sufficient. You hear what's going on? In the early 1900s, new century, black towns in Nebraska, black towns in Wyoming, black towns in California, in Texas, Little Harlem. Listen, Tulsa is the shining example, but really there were smaller versions of that all around the country, all throughout the states. They were everywhere. And so the whole point of this conversation is that you need to go and dig. You need to be an archaeologist and exhume your ancestors. And here, okay? Now, there's a lot to discover in Africa, but just here. The reason why you need to discover what's truly here and how it's connected to you is because it will inform your paradigm, your worldview of how you see the world now and how you truly have agency and how you've been taught to believe that you don't have any agency or you have no power and you come from nothing. That is a bill of goods you've been sold. It's phony.
Look, again, talk about my boy John Mercer Langston. In the Jim Crow era of the late 19th century, Langston was one of 5 African Americans elected to Congress from the South before the former Confederate states passed constitutions and electoral rules from 1890 to 1908 that essentially disenfranchised blacks and took their voting rights, basically. After that, no African American would be elected from the South until 1973, after the Federal Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed to enforce their constitutional franchise rights. The bottom line is, before all these rules and all this shit that had to be put in place to stop our progress. My brother just told you that when you're digging for this stuff, you find a lot of stuff by accident. You find these links and you think it's one thing, and then you read through it's something else. You find out the Central Park in New York, major landmark. You see it in all these movies. You see people jogging. They fall in love in Central Park. You watch SVU, they're getting mugged. That was a black settlement. So we don't even know that we're looking at our own selves. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're looking at an old picture of yourself, not recognizing yourself. You're looking at a picture of yourself in the future, not recognizing yourself. We were already here. We were already doing things. Slavery is not that important footnote in our history. We weren't asking permission. Like I said, literally, you're afraid to run. We talk about the people that marched in the Capitol. Black folks took over capitals before. Hell, in California, the Black Panthers showed up with shotguns. We was kicking ass. The Klan didn't have this hold on us. And when my brother says psyop, he's saying that, look, this is a revisionist history, and they got us scared to do shit. We're still freeing the Klan to this day. Hey, they might hang you. They might lynch you. Fuck you. You come at me, we're gonna fight. That's what these towns were about. They were about providing sanctuary to our people. So they started their own towns. They were prosperous. All of a sudden, they're gone. Well, how'd they leave? Well, this company left, or this happened. They were stolen legacy. No way. There's no way around it. This legacy has been stolen from us.
Okay, but
And
also, the problem with a lot of these towns is that, as I said earlier, they fell victim to outside influences. The railroad rerouted, which may have been racial. You know what I mean?
The coal mine left.
The coal mine left. Industries left the towns. Their water sources were cut off. For example, the collapse of the African American farm economy in the 1920s, and the advent of the Great Depression in 1929, it spelled the end for these black colonies, and because they had crops that were related to these industries that also collapsed or suffered. And so the Depression devastated these towns, and the residents moved west or migrated to cities where jobs might be found. And black towns dwindled to only a few residents. As the population dwindled, so did the tax base. By the 1930s, many railroads failed, isolating small towns from regional and national markets. This spelled the end of many black towns. During the Depression, whites denied credit to African Americans, creating an almost impossible situation for black farmers and businessmen. Even Boley, Oklahoma, one of the most successful towns, declared bankruptcy in 1939. Today, only a few all-black towns survive, but their legacy of economic and political freedom is well remembered. So, here's the thing. Let this serve as an example for two things: that you've been lied to, and don't let it happen to you again, because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And
there's no excuse for ignorance in this day and age.
Correct. And the second is, learn from the failures of these people. Learn from their mistakes. Learn from how they were so dependent on these infrastructures. It caused their downfall. Learn how to liberate yourself and be autonomous.
It's about diversity, income streams, making sure you got food, be able to provide. When you put all your eggs in one basket, one of those eggs breaks, and then they all start breaking. So no, you gotta see this on the horizon. I think that whenever we start trusting white people, I'm sorry, white people ain't bad. I ain't got no problem with them, blah blah blah. But we start trusting them too much, and then that one thing lets you down. They literally said they weren't giving black people loans. So how can you start your business? How can you rebuild if you can't get a loan? Nah, listen to that. That's sabotage. That's outside influence. What my brother was telling you about. And like I said, I'm not saying anybody's good or bad. I'm saying that you got to be prepared for the worst case scenario. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Be ready for a fight, but don't look for a fight. That kind of shit.
Dude, just researching all this blew my mind. Blew my mind. Like, listen, we heard about the examples. There was Langston, and there was Tulsa, and then there was other towns, and and then when I heard about stuff like the blacks in the gold rush, you hear about these people that were making their way in the world in these rugged times. So that goes to show you, man, like, hey, if these people can get it on in the most roughest times to be alive, you have no fucking excuse.
No excuse. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah. Like, your greatest enemy is laziness and comfort. Those two right
Or
there.
fear. Like, you stop being afraid of something. Like everybody was a virgin once. Shit, you just gotta pop the chair and keep stepping. But if you mess up, hey, learn from your mistake. Do it better next time. That's all.
Yes, but also, I want to quote this dope ass line that I heard in a Star Trek cartoon from back in the day, and it says, "Once we were a warriors race. Now what are we? Cowards, soft in our comfort. This sick dream has twisted our souls." Dude. When I heard that shit so many years ago, it just rattled around in my head for a long
You never
time.
forgot it either.
Never forgot it.
You were 8 years old when you heard that. Never forgot it.
Yeah, it was like, some shitty VHS copy of that cartoon that was a rerun then of something that had been on the air and off the air before I was even born. But those words still resonate. They're powerful. We get so caught up in stuff that's in front of us, with staring at small screens and, falling for schemes and things.
The hustle is you think watching a screen is doing something. Back in the day, doing something was fishing, building, fighting. But now you think, my protest, I'm gonna make a meme. I'm protesting this. That's the dumbest shit ever. Look, right now, Kyle Rittenhouse, just got off.
Listen, that shit is a psyop. Okay, stop paying attention to that. That is diversion. That is a diversion, because what just passed in Congress is the infrastructure bill, and inside that bill is all types of nefarious shit that's gonna come to fuck us. And people
taxing you, my brother just told you last time, taxing us about the miles on our car, doing all this crazy shit because they need money, because these electric cars, they can't generate enough money. It's a hustle. Lolita Express, what's his name? I can't. The dude with the plane, his girlfriend is going on trial in the next couple of days. All this shit is taking place, and we're distracted by this kid that shot some protesters.
About Richard Branson?
I get it. No. God damn it. Why, Jeff?
Epstein. You talking about Ghislaine Maxwell? She's the brains behind the operation, actually.
Hold it. She probably is, because that's smart people always hide.
Her father was Mossad, dude. Okay,
God.
The Israeli CIA. All right, and he comes from a long line of sexual blackmail, and that's all she did to everybody who came to Epstein's island. Epstein was the face man. She was the Hannibal.
Yeah, like I said, he sucked him in. She knocked him down.
Yeah, then they had kids suck them off. But listen, this is the thing, though, man. All that is just a smokescreen, really, to keep your eye off the ball, to keep you from really focusing on the shit that really matters, so you don't get angry and do shit that to thwart these plans. But see, here's the thing, though. I want to say something. If these people had complete control, they would have it already. And they make mistakes and they fuck up and they need us. But see, these people who live in these black towns, they were free. They were more free than we are right now.
Hey, man, see, okay, you saying some deep shit. So, I was watching that Kanye interview on Drink Champs, and Kanye, he flutters in and out of consciousness, but every once in a while, and I said this on other podcasts, he was talking about freedom. He said, "Hey, he said one of my workers, one of these guys that work for me or whatever, was mad at me because I don't own a house." He said, "Oh man," he said, "My home is wherever I FaceTime my daughter," and he's like, "I could meet in a hotel." And I brought it up last time, but the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes we don't recognize freedom because we haven't been free. This motherfucker ain't worried about bills. He ain't worried about shit. He can focus on the dumbest shit in the world because he's not being distracted by this other stuff. A lot of this stuff, your mortgage, your car payment, your utilities, your Facebook is a distraction, and you don't see it as that. You don't see that as a prison. You don't see it as that. These are these unseen chains that stop you from being free. And like I said, so many of our podcasts are about free to roam, free to go here, free to go there. And what it is that since we haven't been free, we don't recognize it. And the thing is that they stifle your freedom by giving you shit, to making you desire shit. I want this. I need the latest Apple Watch. And look, you need some toilet paper and some food, and then you start walking. Guns. I'm a gun guy, and so black folks, they got us by Martin Luther King and nonviolence, because he was preaching nonviolence and they were down for that. But again, I've said this in other podcasts. Read his books. His later book said, "I did my people a disservice by doing this nonviolent thing." He admits to it. Even at the Martin Luther King Museum in is it in Atlanta, Georgia? They got fucking Mahatma Gandhi out there who didn't like black folks. You know what I'm saying? So don't fall for the Willy Bobo. The reason it's so important to recognize these black towns and when they were established, because many of them were pre-slavery. Many of them were during the fucking Reconstruction. Many of them were during Jim Crow. We were doing this on our own. Like, okay, I can't be here. I'll find me a spot. I'll go buy some land, which is what people are doing now. They're literally buying land, creating their own towns. We've done this before. Just make sure that what that town relies on can't leave. Make sure you ain't putting too much faith in one industry. Make sure that if the Klan comes, I got these bullets for them their sheets. That's what Malcolm X's daddy said. I don't know if he really said that shit, but it was in Malcolm.
It's like this. Exhume the history of these people that started these black towns, that lived in the black towns. Put yourself in their shoes and imagine what that life was like and what it was like learning about other black towns, that you weren't the only one, and what type of agency that gave you. All right?
And don't forget what kind of punishment they got.
That's right.
Look at Haiti.
That's right.
You are punished for being successful. Nobody else has done that way. That's not right. Sorry, go ahead, brother.
So learn from the past so that you can be the best version of yourself possible. That's all I got. We out. Peace.
Follow back.